there's honestly, there used to be a lot of excuses like, oh, I can't edit videos.
Right.
There's an app for that.
Honestly and truly, low key, those little clips that you be seeing on the podcast. Welcome to another episode of Keeping It a Bean. Keeping It a Bean is where we bring together conversation and culture all over a cup of coffee. We love alliterations as well. If you are new here, my name is Marquise Davon, This American Negro, or Keese. Never call me Mark. At all. It don't even sound right. Other than that, though, if you are returning here, hello to niggas and niggas only. You already know what the vibes are. We love to see it. If you want to support this here podcast, you can do so of two ways. You can do so monetarily or non-monetarily. So monetarily, you can go and hit that Patreon and just be like, hey, I want to give you $2 a month, which is $24 a year, which is cheaper than your Netflix and your Planet Fitness account that you are not using. Think about that. Yeah. Right now, I'm excited because we are going to be revamping what the Patreon is going to be looking like. So please look out for some more exclusive content. I've been scripting out some more episodes that can live there first, and then it'll come out a little bit later. Super excited for y'all to be able to see me kind of back into my This American Negro bag. You already know that's my essayist kind of version of myself. But then also, if there's spaces where you want me to speak at schools, and that can be on topics around SEL, masculinity, race, power, politics, and social justice, particularly mass incarceration and abolition with the abolitionist framework, I'm always down for that as well. Pay your boy though, because we out here. Also just finished up another paid partnership, so I'm super excited just to be able to give out, yeah, man, we out here, yeah. Really back into my political bag, and it's really nice to kind of start returning to those roots and people really just being like, hey, Marquise, I would love to hear you speak about this more. Love that I get that opportunity to like really lean into that and also get paid to do it, which is super nice. But we are in a recession. Economic anxiety also exists. And so if you can't support me monetarily, it's all good. Just tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend about this show. When you're watching the show and you see these lovely faces on here in front of you, hit that like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell here on YouTube. However, if I'm your favorite Monday morning commute, feel free to also hit that like and subscribe. Give me a 5-star rating if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. There's always a question on Spotify as well. So please make sure that you're engaging there. Those are some of the best ways to support podcasters. It helps us show up on different lists, but it also allows us to be somebody who's like, hey, oh, you listen to the Friend Zone? You should probably listen to Keeping It a Bean as well. I'm just saying. Other than that, though, just keep making sure that you engage with me as well on Twitter. Use hashtag Keeping It a Bean or KIAB. And this way I can keep up with the conversation and meet you there as well. Because you know I'm a man of the Twitter streets. I am. Okay? Your daddy named your Twitter, so you're always going to be Twitter. You're never going to be X. Okay? Remember that. That's it. That's what I got today. Other than that, y'all, if you're sitting here and you are watching this, I got this wonderful, wonderful, lovely human on this show here. This man is a man of many talents. This man's journey is not linear at all.
Talk about it.
Okay? This man is a marketing genius. He throws events. He's a storyteller. He's always looking for the Lord and keeps me inspired. We out here. Y'all, Chris Coleman.
Oh, wow.
We out here.
I'm gonna clap myself up.
Yeah.
Hey, man, that sounded great.
Welcome to the show, bro.
Thank you. I should have, first off, can we talk about the intro?
Oh, get into it. What?
It was just so much. It was boom, bang, bow, pow. And then that? I might need you to write my speeches when I'm running for president or something.
Look,
Congress, maybe.
I'm good at that. I ain't gonna hold. I've been doing it for 7 years. I might as well keep it going. Okay.
Because all my speeches would be keeping it a bean.
That's what we need more of. Okay. Yo, I'm so excited. If you want, do you want space to introduce yourself as well? Are you good?
I mean, we'll get into it.
Yes, we will.
Yeah, he explained a lot. I do a lot of things. I've done a lot of things. I'm still doing things.
Yeah.
So we'll get into it.
I'm excited, y'all. Oh, man. All right. Anyways, I'm excited to hop into this episode. Very obviously, this is a guest that I got to learn more about you. Earlier this year?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like a few weeks ago. It felt like
a few weeks ago. That's crazy. It's been a few months ago.
It has been. February.
Yeah.
March?
Somebody's son?
Yeah.
Yeah. Had to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
that could be a few weeks ago. We out here. Time is an illusion. It's all about quality, not quantity.
Amen.
What are we talking about?
Talk about it.
Truly and honestly. So before we get into the rest of this episode and really steep into the conversation, we are going to start with my favorite section. It's your favorite icebreaker. You feel me? You get to know you a little bit more. So this is the Keeping It a Bean segment. The Keeping It a Bean segment is where you keep it 100. It's your most authentic thing. Whether it's your hot take about pop culture, politics, something personal, whatever you want. I never know what niggas about to say, but they're going to say something. Good sir. What are you keeping it a bean about today?
Today, this is a hot topic.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to go comedic.
I didn't know what was happening. I'm waiting.
But my keeping it a bean moment, is that what we call it?
Yeah, if you want to keep it a bean, boom.
Okay, so keeping it a bean. AI won't replace jobs. People that use AI will replace jobs.
Ooh. I like that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I've been thinking about that.
Yeah.
I've been thinking about that.
No, and I'm with you on that though too, because like my day job is quite literally meant to get Black and brown kids involved in STEM, especially first generation students.
Right.
And so like even in that, it's trying to think around how can I help cultivate the next competitive generation of Black and brown tech ethicists, tech enthusiasts, but also people who are building out these things right now. Because AI is in a very it's advancing very quickly, and we are going to get left behind, especially because we don't like new things.
Right.
And because of that, we will not be able to compete in that market. And it also doesn't help that a lot of us don't even feel ourselves represented in any of these STEM fields either way, because a lot of what they're doing is like machine learning.
Right.
And if we're not getting students involved in machine learning, if we're not getting so many more people acclimated to what that really means, because we use we use AI a lot. Our Spotify's has utilized AI. Like, it's there.
It's been happening for years. I think it's only, honestly, since ChatGPT kind of went viral, was a consumer use case for it. But I've been using like AI or machine-based learning, like writing tools, editing tools. If you've ever used any Adobe product, a lot of like Photoshop, Illustrator, all of that is AI. It just didn't have a name.
Yeah.
And so now it's just like, it's kind of in your face, it's marketed. And like you're alluding to, we aren't in STEM as much. However, the beauty of this, and I've been in tech for a long time, the fact that you can just go on a website, sign up for OpenAI's API access, watch a few YouTube videos, and build a platform using another no-code AI software.
Just wild.
There's honestly... There used to be a lot of excuses like, oh, I can't edit videos.
Right.
There's an app for that.
Honestly and truly, low key, those little clips that you be seeing on the podcast, Opus Pro gets my videos right. Now, sometimes they be locating extra faces and that be annoying me because I'm just like, no, don't do that.
Right.
But for the most part, like it's helped me. It's eliminated so much more of my time. Like when I outline episodes, I use Craft. And so that helps me just like get the flow of the episode going right. And then I make sure to kind of like build in the meat and potatoes of everything. When it comes to here, this has taken what used to be a 3 to 4 hour process of, all right, let me get this clip and let me get this clip. Now let's make this social media friendly. Now let's do this. I don't have to do that anymore because it can get the words and get the faces and start making the clips for me, which allows my output to be even more convenient. So like AI has actually made my journey as a content creator a lot easier because right now I don't have an editor. I don't have any of that. That's all me. But as it goes along, I'm just like, well, for right now I can utilize this. It's not always perfect, but it gets the job done pretty damn well. Yeah.
And the thing that I think people sometimes overestimate is the jobs that AI is doing are not jobs any of us wanted to do. Transcribing content. I used to do that. You get paid pennies on the dollar per X amount of words. So like, let's say like 0.9 cent for 500 words.
That's wild.
Yeah. And you
That's
had
wild.
to watch videos and you typing this up and you're making sure they're saying what they're saying. You're putting, time, stamps and everything. That's a job AI can do.
Yeah.
Helping, and I'm not saying caveat. I'm not saying that AI is the end all be all, or that the ways that it's working now of using other people's original creations to help other people create something new. I'm not saying that is right. I'm not saying it is wrong. I'm just saying if we change our perception that AI is here and AI itself will not take your job, it is the people that are using AI who will do it. Maybe it'll help give people a different preference.
Now, I don't know, because I saw a self-serve McDonald's, and that kind of threw me off. Okay, I'm going to be honest.
Somebody still got
to create the thing.
Fix the menu.
Yeah.
Somebody got to come and fix the machine.
Yeah. Because that was one of my biggest concerns when I first started thinking around like the integration of AI, was just like a lot of this feels like administrative jobs. And most times there are a lot of Black and brown people in those positions for long times. And so what does it look like to integrate AI without taking a human, right? And I think something that I had to think about a little bit more is AI is not going to be the end all be all, because there's a necessity for human connection.
Right.
And so like what does
for
that
now,
for now. I said it because I reread Fahrenheit 451. I said, ooh, I think it's going to be a little bit more disconnected the more and more it goes, because I see it happening with kids.
It's already happening now.
I don't want to talk about
my niece and nephew, literally, I was watching them yesterday, and like she's taking just random people's phones, goes right to the camera app, can take a front-facing pic, a back-facing pic. She's 3 years old. Somebody had an Apple Watch on. She took the Apple Watch off. She started going.
It's a different
got
generation,
to YouTube
yeah.
on the Apple Watch, and I'm like, that's insane.
Yeah,
it's wild.
Because it's like, and it's a world that they will just never know anything differently of either. Yeah. Because, well, you know, if I'm gonna keep it a bean,
Talk to them.
Yeah, if I'm gonna keep it a bean, we are asking kids now to keep trying to have the same appreciation and ethic that we had, because we had to grow up without some things, right? And so I kind of found myself getting annoyed with people always consistently blaming kids for being like, well, y'all don't know how to appreciate anything, and this is not this. When I was growing up, I didn't have this, and y'all lucky I didn't have
8 miles to school in the pouring rain,
and now y'all just get Ubers everywhere. Like, what y'all about, right? And so my argument has been like, well, what does this mean if we think around generational wealth, right? What does this mean if, like, we're consistently pushing our things that we've known to appreciate, but we are not taking time to figure out, like, well, what do the kids actually give a shit about now, right? Because at the end of the day, and I use kind of like Blackish and like this new wave of television that was happening for a little bit between like 2016 and 2021 of like the middle class Black family, the upper class Black family.
Right.
There is a world that they just don't, they don't know what it means to have to earn something as much, right? And so you have to find different lessons on how to make them appreciate earning something or struggling through something or having to like just be patient before you can get something.
Everything's instant.
Yeah, so there's so much instant gratification that happens. They used to try to say that's going to happen with our generation. They were like, no, millennials want instant gratification for everything, da-da-da-da. I was like, we're still the ones who had to go outside.
Right.
We still had to wait until after 8 o'clock to make calls for free. We still had to do dial-up, which means you got either internet or phone. You don't got both. Right?
If you're not in my top 5, you're not getting called till after 9.
Okay, let's talk about it. Like, but I'm like, there are so many things that we're so frustrated with kids about, but I don't think that we've even understood what do values mean when tech has impacted how we navigate this world.
That's true. And
so many things are changing. The way that tech is integrated into schools, into jobs, into personal life. It's here and it's here to stay, but I think we struggle as adults to really force kids to think about something that they've never experienced. Kids thinking around, kids have phones in their hand at 3. The phone is part of their everyday life.
Right.
It's a necessity at this point.
Right.
And so it's funny, like, hearing some people just be like, this generation is lost, this, da-da-da. Now, there are some things where I'm just like, no, we need to, like, find our way back to
that's
connecting as human beings and finding community again. And we need to also be very realistic around, we want more for the next generation, but if we continue to give more for the next generation, that means values inherently change. Right. And we need to know what it means to then adjust to those values and meet children halfway and allow them to still have insight into your world, but just know I always try to say, like, I teach to the world the kids are going to grow up in, not the one that I grew up in, because those are very different.
The thing that makes me laugh, and granted hindsight is the best, is 2020.
2020. My vision's not, but
amen. Yeah, in the 40s, 50s, 60s, we can even go 70s. Remember when rock and roll came out and those kids started shaking their hips and gyrating, and you would have thought the world was going to end. And then the marijuana, the devil's lettuce came.
Oh my God.
And our country is still grappling with, like, marijuana is inherently bad.
Right.
Just because we were a very, 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 very Bible-based country. And most of our leaders were Christian.
Allegedly.
And, like, well,
sorry,
they followed Christian practices.
Yes, they did.
I'm sorry. And so, there was no separation of church and state. And so, most of the pillars that I think our society are built on, which are great ones, are also don't give freedom for anything else outside of that.
Right.
If you fall out of the norm, it's like, you're a weirdo. And it's like, well, nah, just don't subscribe to that.
Yeah.
There are some things that I'm just like, oh, maybe a little too far.
Yeah.
But there are other things, such as like AI and technology, where it's the same thing as rock and roll. It's something that is new. It is something that is part of our society. It is something that is actually propelling us forward in a way that the Industrial Revolution did.
Right.
And the way that sharecropping did.
Come on now.
Jim Crow, if we want to go there.
I don't know if
hey, it's good or bad. Yeah. Well, yes. Okay. Sharecropping, post-slavery helped, the black
dollar. It helped black people
really come up. So, like, I think everything has its place.
Yeah.
And AI, if you are taking advantage of it,
right.
Truly, there has never been a time where you can get wealthy or rich or out of a situation faster than any other time in history without really spending much money, because there's a lot of free products. There's a lot of products that you pay $5 for.
Right.
$5.
And that's wild. Yeah.
And then all the platforms that you post them on are free.
There we go.
So that's my keeping it a bean rant.
No, I appreciate it, thank you for that, because that really leaned me into some stuff too, where I was just like, yeah, no, this has been on my spirit. Time to
and I mean, not to I'm going to jump back in.
No, jump back in.
Stuff like prompt engineering, all of this stuff didn't exist 2 years ago. So, like, the people that are getting hired on it, getting paid 6-7 figures, are literally people that just are testing.
Dog. And you think around, like, it's funny, because even bringing that up, it takes me back to 2016. All of my internships in college were all based on social media and digital media. And so, like, when I'm going and interning, they're just like, oh, yeah, well, Marquise, you know how to read analytics. You're on social media. You know how this works. Well, what should we be creating? And so I had the foresight to understand. My professor said in 2018, video will run everything.
Facts.
Will run everything. And he was like, this is why it's important to be in this major, because now you can also be competitive for the things that they're going to need. What they weren't ready for was how much social media was going to end up taking over and being necessary for everybody's marketing, but also realizing, like, oh, wait, I need to create content now.
Right.
And this content people aren't just buying it just to buy it anymore. Now they want a story.
Right.
And so now it became story-based marketing. And then there was, the rise of Black Lives Matter and the third wave of feminism. Oh, now everything has to be cause-based marketing.
Right.
And so everything is just like moving, and you see it happen all the time now. Even celebrities have to essentially be influencers now.
Right.
Like, they can't just do one thing anymore.
I mean, there's a girl somewhere right now in Idaho doing a TikTok dance that has more followers than, I don't know,
somebody.
A lot of people.
Yeah.
An A-list celebrity.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, it's fascinating.
Yeah.
It's a great world.
Because it's like celebrity becomes more accessible.
Yeah.
But is everybody also...
Everybody don't deserve it.
Everybody don't deserve it, and everybody's actually not prepared for that space either, which is another compelling conversation around.
I should have said that one.
What?
We shouldn't destroy people's lives for one mistake they make on the internet, but that's a whole different thing.
That's a whole real thing. But I think it's like the digital responsibility, the digital persona of, like, what happens. I made a joke the other day. Somebody was just like, what was it? They were talking about the two British men. Why am I bugging? The Shits and Gigs podcast. Love the clips hilarious. But we were just like, dang, when's going to be that time one of them say something and then everybody's going to turn? Because it happens to everybody. So I'm like, you have the thing of like going viral and being as big as they are means that someone could be like,
someone's bound to be offended.
Somebody's bound to be offended, or they're gonna say one wrong thing, and then everyone will be like, I didn't see for them niggas anyways. Right?
I knew it. I knew it.
This is your king,
right?
Illuminati.
It all changed in 2018 when James looked at him and said, "Butter, you're my boyfriend.
My boyfriend.
I remember that."
You said they've been gay in plain sight. What?
Right.
Crying. But I thought I made a joke about it, and then the other day somebody else was just like, oh damn, like that one time you go viral and then everybody cancels you immediately. And it's like just a part of the process in gaining this space, because it's funny, it's been like kind of a through line in the past couple of episodes, but like now that social media is also a moneymaker, people have a different level of anxiety and commitment to creating content or making the next viral moment. And because of that, it feels oversaturated, and people have a unhealthier connection to social media because they're like, if I don't post every day, I'm no longer relevant. If I don't do this, I'm no longer relevant, which means I can't make money. And if I can't adhere to this. And so I think a lot of times in the world that's shifting, our relationship to so many different things, we don't just consume content anymore just to consume. Right. Some of us are consuming to learn. Some of us are consuming to make networking and connection. These are people's jobs, right? And so I think a lot of what we're talking around is like, how has technological advances and honestly just different advances, whether it's the digital revolution, the industrial revolution, different waves of societal shifts and social contract shifting as well, it's going to consistently impact. And I think something we are experiencing when we are just like, well, don't do this and don't do this. It's some of it's anxiety. Some it's like, I'm unfamiliar with the world, with what the world's turning into. But then also it's like, am I getting left behind?
That's facts.
Yeah. So we try to cling on to the things we know. So when we can't teach a new generation something, then we're frustrated because it's just like, oh, I'm no longer relevant.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dog.
Get off my lawn.
Okay. That's exactly what it is. What is that? What he said? It's loud, unnecessary loud noises just make me mad now. Like
boomer vibes.
Very much so.
Man, we can talk about this forever.
Nah, truly and honestly. But I appreciate that because we about to get into some things.
About to get into it.
Yes. No, I am so excited for this conversation. So thank you for that, keeping it a bean, because I was like, oh, this is just fun. I get to nerd out a little bit with you. But I'm excited to get to know you a lot more. So when we steep into this conversation, you see, for the viewers, you steep your tea and let it just marinate because it's a long conversation.
Talk to him.
You feel me?
Talk to him.
Yeah, let's get into it. I was clever. I thought about it. It's that big brain. Stop playing with him. No, but I'm so excited to get into this conversation because something I have been personally thinking about, and which I'm inspired by you with, is that like I turned 29 this year. And for me, I had always made these plans of, I'm going to, by 27, I'm going to be married. By 30, I'm going to have my first kid. And I'm going to do this. I'm going to have my doctorate. I'm going to have all of this stuff, right? And so for me, a theme I have been learning in these last couple of months, and shout out to Around the Way Curls because they were able to articulate in a way I was always struggling to. But I was so used to being in control because being in control served me. And in this area of life, I don't need to control every single possible outcome. I don't need to be the person that people want me to be. I don't need to say the right thing for everybody anymore. I don't need to like, all right, and my next thing is this. Like I knew logically, high school, get a job, college, make sure you graduate. Once you graduate, then you get a 9-to-5. And this is what's going to make sense. And you just need to make money and get your benefits. And this is the only thing that you got to worry about. But so much happened in between that I was just like, wait, this ain't my timeline. I was like, I got my first job. I was a full-time social media content consultant. I'm like working in this tech space. And I was like, oh, I thought I was going to do this because this is where all my internships have been. I've loved the tech area. I love doing this thing. I was like, this is miserable.
It's ghetto.
It is ghetto. I said, I'm not a task-driven person. I learned, I'm a purpose-driven person. If I'm going to do some work and at least have to spend 40 hours of my week, I'm going to do something I'm passionate about. Accidentally found myself in education. Did not know where podcasting was going to take me. Turned into something that I'm just like 7 years later, I still love this thing. And just consistently seeing new opportunities. And so for me, I had to learn to let go of the control I have cultivated to feel safe and secure and everything. But I getting to know you a lot more and getting to talk to you more, it feels like you are able to embrace, and you had a plan, but you embraced the pivots of life.
Yeah.
And so I just want to know, like, let's take it back for everybody. And I prefaced it with that because what you inspired me about is embracing a lot more pivots and being okay with just being like, I want to do this, I'm going to do it. Right. And I don't need to worry about what everybody else's perception is going to be. Right. And so I feel like learning your story around going to college and then be like, and then just like the different avenues of marketing and taking this opportunity to go here and now ending up where you're at now and consistently just being like, I can continue to embrace the newness and also still be good. And so can you do you mind sharing your story around your college journey and then kind of lean into who you are today?
Yeah. So I got recruited to run track and field, long distance specifically, out in Denver, Colorado.
Come on now.
Actually, that was a pivot in itself. So growing up, always played basketball. Was an okay player in like middle school, but I didn't realize you had to practice outside of practice.
Oh, I can't just be a natural? I can't just show up and be good?
I didn't know you did additional practice. It wasn't like now where like you got 3 trainers. And like you making Instagram videos and you dunking in 6th grade. World. Yeah. So come high school, I got cut from the 9th grade team. And I was like, I know I'm better than these players. But like I was one of those players in the tryouts, like I just deferred to others instead of like playing my game. Yeah. I also was like short and fat. I hadn't hit my growth spurt yet. Yeah. Which didn't happen to college, unfortunately. So I ended up going from, I think, 5'8" senior year of high school to 6'1" by freshman year of college.
Wow. Who is this?
Yeah, pretty much. Somebody, I'd never forget, somebody, I had a T-shirt on, and they were like, why is your shirt so small? And I was like, oh.
I grew.
Yeah, I bumped it up. Like, you see the push-ups. But it started there. In 10th grade, I asked my dad, like, hey, can you train me to play basketball? He's very well-known basketball player in Philly. Similar to you, he went to college and went into his Black Power era. Brought members of the Black Panthers to Shippensburg.
Wow.
Yeah, and he could have played ball, like multi-MVP in Sunny Hill League, if you know Philly, famous basketball league. And he was tough, and he never pursued it. And so I asked him to train me. And so one of the things that he was like, you aren't the tallest. Right now you have like no outstanding skills. You're just going to work harder than everybody. Yeah. So he made me do 3 miles every day, started at 3 miles. Then he would make me do 5 miles, and I would come back, I would eat breakfast, I would do my basketball drills, and then I would run sprints, and then I would do like a bunch of defensive stuff. Yeah. So like 10th grade to 11th grade, I had a short, low growth spurt. Went to the tryout. I'm way more conditioned than everybody. Yeah. Like running circles around them. Yep. And I started to make my niche at being a great defender because I was faster. Yeah. And I had a lot of acceleration and agility, a lot of good lateral movements. He also changed my jump shot, so I went from like shooting from my chest to like actually shooting.
Getting some form.
Shot. Yep. Yeah. And so he just made me shoot hundreds of mid-range shots. Yeah. All summer. And so like that became my bread and butter. Yep. They're now called 3-and-D guys in the NBA. They shoot threes and they play defense. Yep. I was a 2-and-D guy. Right. I could stick anyone from a point guard to a center in high school. Most people aren't that tall. Right. And I could shoot nice jump shots. The school at that time wasn't looking for players like that. They wanted like lanky wings. But we had a time trial mile. And all the guards had to get under, I think, like 5:30. I ended up running like a 4:50 mile.
Stop playing with him. Yeah. Stop playing with him.
So the basketball coach is like, you should run track. Yeah. And I was like, I never thought about it. I just am training to do this. Ended up running track and got the scholarship. Yeah. Never really liked running, but it took me to college for free. And this is where it gets interesting. I ran my first year in college, I ran my first semester in college, did pretty good, and I thought college was supposed to be I guess, more challenging schoolwork wise. That's what my high school teachers always say. Like, nobody's going to care about you. It's going to be harder than high school. I found it more easier than high school. You get the syllabus, you study the syllabus, you regurgitate the stuff on the test, and then you do it all over again. So I transferred the first time after the second semester. We were on a trimester schedule. Yeah. So I came to Philly while I waited, and then I went to a school in upstate New York called SUNY New Paltz. I was there for 13 days.
Oh, wow.
It was not for me.
Nope.
Came back to the original school I was at in Denver, Colorado, and finished that one. So we got 2 schools.
Yep.
That summer I had to make up for the trimester that I missed. I went to Montco, Montgomery Community College. That's 3 schools. I then transferred to the University of Colorado, the Denver campus, because I changed my major to journalism. Yep. So that's the 5th school. Well, that's 4th school.
4th. Yep.
While at the University of Colorado, I was like, hey, this is a good experience, but I want a Black experience. Yeah. So I transferred to Howard University. That's the 5th school. Yeah. And I was there for a year. I feel like I'm missing one. I'm missing 2. All right. Anyway.
Yeah.
I was 6 schools nonetheless. I was there for a year. And while there, I never forget my teacher worked at the Washington Post. Very decorated person. And so he was just like, this is like where writing is. Yeah. You got to write for newspaper. Mind you, I had a blog since freshman year writing about smartphone technology.
Yes, sir. It's one of the early adopters.
Yeah. So I was just like, what is he talking about? Like, does he not read these tech blogs? Is he not on the internet? Like, what are we talking about? Newspaper. And so I asked him.
He said, print? They're still doing that?
Right. Drake? So I asked him, like, what do you think about blogging? He was like, oh, that'll never, like, pick up. That'll never be popular. Like, it's all about print. And we do digital as a second thought. Yeah. Because Washington Post, I don't even think, had a website. And so I was just like, oh, nah, they can't teach me anything here. So I started reading a lot of different tech blogs, learning about like startups. So like this is when Facebook was raising all this money. This is where Airbnb was starting to do things. And if you weren't paying attention to that part of the country, you have no idea what the heck's happening. So I was like, I want to do that. And so my favorite entrepreneur, shout out to this man, Garrett G. He had a company called Scan, and what they did was they allowed you to scan QR codes and create QR codes.
Oh, that's sweet, yo.
They are actually the QR code scanner for Snapchat. So Snapchat bought them for $43 million.
God damn.
Actually more than that. He made $43 million. And all that came out when Snapchat's documents got leaked. Right. But he now is a big vlogger, and they have a YouTube channel called The Something Family. Yeah. I can't think of it.
That's all good.
But he makes content with his family.
Wow.
But
what a pivot.
He was blogging about his journey starting this company at BYU. And so I was reading his stuff, and he was giving like so much insight into like the startup world and how it worked. And so I followed him on Twitter. And anytime he had like a digital speech, I would show up. Yeah. And then I would just message him.
Oh, that's so dope.
And email him. And he was finally like, yo, here's my number. Yeah. Like, reach out if you ever need anything. So, of course, I reached out and asked for a job. Right. And he was like, okay, I'll see what I can do. It didn't happen because they were based in Utah. But he exposed me to like so much stuff in the startup world. And he's just like, if you want to do what I do, either be a developer, a designer, wow. Or kind of like an in-between. Yeah. I can't design. I don't have that eye.
It's not for me either.
Anyone can learn how to code. Yeah. So I started teaching my code, stopped going to class at Howard, still did my test, but I was just from sun up to sundown, I would code, and then I would go to work. And at the end of the year, I just decided to drop out because I had been coding. I started building websites for people, and I've been documenting my journey with video on YouTube. Yeah. And so I had this idea of every time when I had to move, I had to sell all my stuff.
Yeah.
So I was like, if there's an app that could help me sell my stuff and get what I want, I would love to use that. At the time, eBay was the only platform like to put stuff up and sell it and auction it. But there was nothing where we could trade stuff.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm gonna start it. So I started developing that, building that. It was called Savvy Swap. And I documented that whole journey of how I met my co-founder, how we were doing stuff. And a guy from Istanbul, Turkey, saw my video and was like, I want to invest in y'all.
Right.
Never met this man in my life.
Yep.
Still have not met this man.
I'm crying.
He wrote a check for 5 figures. We used that to build a prototype. We then pitched that to a company out in San Francisco. While we were pitching that, I was living in San Diego, which is how I went to the 7th college. It should be 8, but I'm missing one.
Yeah.
But I went to the 7th college, University of San Diego, so I could, keep them loans, getting paid to live. And so I obviously dropped out of that as well.
Yeah.
Moved to San Francisco. We raised some more funding, kind of got the ball rolling with that product, and then it failed. I think it was a little ahead of its time. The concept of like trading things and not exchanging a dollar amount was too weird for people.
Yeah.
Also, the sharing economy, as they call it, so Uber, Lyft, Airbnb,
right,
that was only prevalent out in the Bay.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's West Coast now. Yeah.
So unless you were living in the Bay, specifically Silicon Valley, no one had ever heard of it. And so it failed, but because I documented everything and I use social media to do all this, I had a following of 50,000 on Twitter.
Right.
Instagram didn't have video yet, but I had a little bit of a following on Vine. And then I never really had a huge following on YouTube, but like it got me an investor.
Yeah.
So I had people looking at that.
Wow.
And then the blog.
Yeah.
So that's the beginning stage.
Yeah, and I love hearing like this part of the story because one, it's funny like how we started off with keeping it a bean,
Right.
and like thinking around how you're a clear example of how you've changed with the times and also rejected some of the old tradition as well, right? Like people were not fucking with the blog era, and then I'm like, the blog era is like a crucial era in like hip hop and culture and how we move forward, because now you are also seeing the probably the earliest of influencers, if we're going to be very honest. People went to go see what were you talking about, but you were an expert at what you were talking about, right? It's something you love that you were talking about, and then you had the foresight to start understanding like, oh no, tech is ahead. Digital is going to be a thing. Oh, let me mobilize social media. Even the fact that you said, let's document this, right? Like that's so important to like name, because you had to navigate in a way that deviated away from a natural or a sensible trajectory of like what you should have did. Like they're looking at you crazy. Like, so you left college. So what you doing? So you doing this? What's going on here, right?